stepping into the Zoom. Big love, bold words. It's the elephant in the room.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to another segment of the Elephant in the Room. I am so excited to be joined by Bruce Wade, the Thinking Sensei. Bruce, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you very much, Lee Joy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. So I've known you for a few years now. We met through the Professional Speakers Association of South Africa. You're in Cape Town. You've started Voices into Africa. You've got the Red Jacket Speakers Bureau, which I'm a part of, and really grateful for the amazing work that you guys are doing, trying to find us work in different segments of industries. What is it about speaking that, because you're a coaching, leadership coach and strategy coach and growth coach, you've done amazing work in that space, and we'll get to that. And you come from a tech background, if I remember, like a coding tech background. Why speaking?
It's actually interesting. If you go back, let's just rewind 1 or 2 years to my high school years, okay? I've got a huge speech impediment. I'm incredibly introvert. I hate talking in crowds. At school, this whole idea of having to read a poem in front of the class or introduce your name or go around in the circle and tell us everybody, it was my worst nightmare, absolute worst nightmare. The amount of times that I faked that I couldn't see because I didn't have glasses that I didn't need, so I didn't have to read. It was absolutely terrible. So I left school at the age of 17 with the title of least likely ever to speak. And I found a job. I went to sea. I became a merchant naval officer, and I got to drive oil tankers around the ocean. And it was nice because at sea you work alone and there's nobody to talk to. Occasionally, there's odd meetings and radio, but other than that, you're alone, and it was wonderful. And then I got into IT a number of years after that, and it was also a wonderful job that I could sit in front of a computer and not talk to anyone. And I found that amazingly, my brain was wired exactly the same way as a computer. So it was like a duck to water, and I loved my IT. I still are very much an IT nerd. And slowly, as I got through the various levels of corporate, all of a sudden you had to be in a meeting and you had to lead a meeting, and then you were a project manager, and I was going like, oh my dear, I now need to speak to people and I need to do this. So I was able to fake it. I was able to, get other people to present for me and always nudge somebody else and, oh, won't you just do this? Because the idea of speaking in front of a group of people was a fear worse than death. And I was the classic person that feared this what's it, agoraphobia, I think is the right word. The fear of speaking was so big because of my speech impediment and because of the fear of people laughing and pointing like they do at school. And when you make a mistake, people point and laugh, and it hurts deep. It's very different in adults where people are a lot more tolerant. They might point and laugh inside, but they don't do it externally. But it was a thing. Then I got a job. I kind of did that. And then I got a job where I had to present in front of the city of Cape Town. And I was doing big projects and I had to go around and present. And I thought, no, I need to sort this out. I really need to do this. So I joined Toastmasters. And Toastmasters
I'm also Toastmaster. Oh, used to be.
So I did 4.5 years with Toastmasters, and I made it a thing that every single meeting I went to, I would speak. I would never just be a passive person. I pushed myself. I used Rescue Remedy. I used Comics tablets. I used high sugar coffee. I tried all these different things. And it just became, every time I spoke, it just became that little bit easier and I pushed myself like I've done in so many other facets of my life. And all of a sudden, I gave a speech and people applauded and people came to me and said like, wow, and it became easier. And the speech impediment, even though it's there, it doesn't bother me at all. and I'm able to walk through now. I've gone there, and then I finished my 4 years at Toastmasters, and then I joined Professional Speakers Association, and I started getting into that, and I loved the Southern Africa Association, and then I started getting involved in other associations around the world, and slowly I've just pushed myself. I spent a time as president of our local association, which was a huge push because that pushes you into the global market. And as of yesterday, I have spoken at, I think it was 7 different association summits, and at, I don't know, 14 different countries. And I go on stage, and instead of that nerves being a handicap, I use it as a energizing fuel. So I still get nervous. I still, there's been times I've walked up on stage, and as I've turned, my mind's just gone blank, and I don't even know what title of speech I'm supposed to do. It happens to everyone. But it's the professionalism of experience that gets you through those hard times, and you're able to cope. And even yesterday, I was at an event, and someone pulled the plug on the virtual event halfway through, and everybody just disappeared, globally event. And it was just so funny. And, everyone came back, and we had a good laugh and go, well, that's it. But we're back because we're professionals, and this is the way it runs. And so things do happen. But it's a matter of having that inner confidence that overrides the fear of failure, and it's okay. And I think that is one of the big pillars of my life at the moment, is that inner confidence, which is strapped with a whole bunch of stuff that holds that column up. But that inner confidence, which means I don't care about what I think other people think of me. And I only now know that I'm there for a purpose, and I'm there to create impact. That then overrules everything else. So I'm not worried. If someone thinks I'm a pupil, so be it. That's their problem, not mine. Where it used to be all my problem, and it's no longer. I think with age, we stop caring about what other people think of us.
No wonder. That's such a beautiful story, and I love that. I was married. My second husband had a speech impediment, and so I'm keenly aware of, and I understand the growth that it took for you to overcome that. I wonder, overcoming that difficulty, how did that courage and confidence that you received from going through that, how did it impact other areas of your life?
Everything. And I think it's not like, I overcome that and then that, because every time I pushed myself. So I'm a learner. In my strengths, learner is definitely up there with the top 5. So a day without learning is a day without oxygen for me. So I need to learn, and a lot of that I've done is I've put that learning inwards. So I need to know a lot about myself. I broke my knee, and over those months that I had my knee fixed, I became a knee specialist because I learned everything about the knee. And I'm going through an eye issue at the moment, so I'm becoming a kind of an eye expert. I'm learning all the stuff there. And the same thing about my speaking, my confidence, my self-esteem, my courage. All those things have been so much introspective work and learning that I've really, really pushed myself. I don't just take advice from other people. I take my advice and then go do deep dives, and I spend literally hours and hours researching and learning, and then applying it, because I'm very interested in why people do the stuff they do and why they don't do the things that they should do. And looking at that, and that's that human behavior. It's not psychology, it's more human behavior, has been a core journey of the past 30 years of mine. And and I think one word comes out where I remember sitting in church many years ago, and the sermon was about this word authenticity. And it was, a word you hear and stuff there. But I still remember that day. I can still remember where I was sitting and who was speaking. And I was sitting there and that word author, and I wrote it down in my little notebook that I was there. And I wrote there and I kind of underlined it. And I go like, what does it mean? And obviously they were talking about authenticity and faith and all that sort of stuff. And I go and I'm going like, well, what does that mean? And that has been the journey. If you had to put a pin in there and look at the golden thread for the past 30 years, I think that is being me. What does it mean to be authentic, your true self? Going back to your roots, why was I made? Why was I created? What was the purpose? Why was I equipped? Why did I have a speech impediment? Why did I have the parents I had? Why was I born where I was born? All that is that authenticity. And then what are you supposed to do with what you have? That is authenticity lived. And so you've got to be authentic. You've got to be authentic. You've got to do that. And that has been my driving force. And anything that gets in the way of that is bulldozed out like, oh, I'm having a bad headache. No, authenticity, get out of the way. Oh, I'm feeling down. No, authenticity, get out of the way. And that has been the kind of energy battery that is driven it. Because if I don't have a good day, I'm not being authentic to me and my soul and that. And then also one big aha that I share with you is this happened probably about 10 years ago. I suddenly woke up, realized that I wasn't human on a soul journey. I'm a soul on a human journey. And that paradigm shift is massive. And it really, really changed. And again, I've done a lot of kind of deep diving into that. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because everyone says it's me. If I'm human first, then I got to look after my human traits, which hunger, self-esteem, got to look good, dress good, well, all about this sort of stuff. And it becomes an ego trip. If you put soul first, it changes everything. And then you add that word authenticity. And what does it mean to live as an authentic soul on a human journey? That is a script that has, if only I had this when I was 12, I would be very different. But we don't have, it's one of those hindsight. Hindsight, wish I was younger, but we're not. And this is where I'm at. So I'm an authentic soul on a human journey, having the time of my life.
I love that. I love that. We before we jumped on air today, we spoke about the Jane Fonda TED Talk of the third act that I shared with you this morning. That she's just a powerhouse, and I'm just so excited to look at this last third act in such a. And I recommend people go and have a look. I'll actually put the link in the show notes. But just and I think you've summed up authenticity in a holistic way, because often people can act like idiots and they say, well, this is authentically me, like suck it up, this is how I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no, actually that's not authentically you. Authentically, you're a beautiful whole soul that has come here to spread light and love. And I guess you could have said, well, I have a speech impediment, this is me, this is authentically me. But for you to have been given the grace and the wherewithal to go, actually, no, that's not me. I'm somebody that is confident and whole. Yeah. So I did some deep diving on you. I must say that I was very nervous about AI when it first came out, and I did see it affect my business. And then I thought, well, I'm going to not allow it to affect my business. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon, and I'm going to make friends with AI. And the AI bot or journey that I use or app that I use is Gemini. I'm sure I'll use the others when time comes, but I don't want to confuse myself too much. And I asked, what is the elephant in the room in Bruce Wade's professional philosophy is the massive disconnect between ideation and execution. He points out that many business leaders hold brilliant strategy workshops only for those ideas to be abandoned when daily operations take over, which renders the initial ideas entirely useless. To solve this, Wade focuses on two core frameworks, MOT being moments of truth and AQ being agent quotient. I'd love to hear more about that.
So I think one of the things, so if you look at my journey, it's been very much EQ. Who am I? What is my relationship with me, myself, and I, and then with those three people and other people, and how do we do that? So I've spent a lot. I'm very happy alone. Okay, I get energy from being alone, but I also get energy from being in a group of people. But sometimes loneliness is unbearable, and sometimes being in a room full of people is very unbearable for me. So I'm kind of that, in between extrovert, introvert, omnivert, whatever you want to call it with that. But the extremes, loud noise, groups of people, and I'm like out of there pretending I'm smoking out on the balcony, or when I'm alone, I need to speak to somebody. So with that, so my EQ journey has been really good. And I read the EQ book when it first came out. I was one of the first people that kind of bought it. I looked at this thing, that was probably 30 years ago, and I dived into that, and I thought suddenly somebody has got maths, because maths is another cornerstone of my life. It's got to be mathematically correct. And EQ is actually a mathematical expression of our relationships with human beings. And it worked beautifully for me, and we can then play around with it. So I loved that. And then when this AI stuff came out, I dive into any new technology. I'm the guy like 3:00 in the morning downloading the software as it's been rolled out. And it's just really interesting there. So AI was the stuff I dived into when it was really chunky and really terrible. And I started speaking about it. People shouted and screamed how bad this was, and oh, look how terrible it is, and making mistakes and this. And we're going, well, wait until this afternoon and it won't make those mistakes anymore. And how about you? When are you going to learn yours? And we've seen that evolution of it. But one thing as well, I've seen the world separate. There's been those people who have played with AI and use AI in the front end. So they use they use the Claude and the Gemini and ChatGPT as front ends. And there's a fair amount of those, even though there's still like 2% of the world are only on there. And then above there, you get the smaller people who have actually paid for AI and using it more, kind of invested. And then you get the layer above that people are using agents. And then above that, the people are actually programming with us. And then the people above that are actually defining the bots and creating things so you get bots that are running agents that are doing your AI for you, which are doing your automation. So there's a number of things with that. And I found out that a lot of this was very diverse. And in your little blurb, there's one of my big things is, why do people have ideas and then abandon those ideas? Why do people have brilliant ideas in the shower or at 3:00 in the morning or while sitting in traffic, and many of those ideas just never get through the ideation phase? So I went out and I created this I5 framework, which defines the evolution of an idea from what if to final product, and put that into there. And then I also then realized that there was this massive gap between humans and automation and AI. And so I started playing around with this, and I sat down. I spent a lot of time in conversation with a number of bots that simultaneously. So I get the bots to speak to other bots and platforms, and I'm so I'm having like a panel discussion, and we came up with this thing, and I kept on asking, what is the relationship between humans and AI? And it was saying it's undefined. Nobody's gone there. So, well, let's go there. And over the course of many hours and a lot of research and a lot of writing, I've developed this thing called AQ, which is agent quotient, your intelligence to be able to work with AI. And it's not just a personal thing, but it's like EQ. So you have EQ personally, EQ teams, EQ companies, EQ, groups of people. And the same thing with AQ is that I can be very good, but I can introduce AQ into my team. and 3/4 of the people will go, nah, don't trust it. No, don't like it. Oh no, it's it's going to take my job, and we've got all those fears. So AQ defines the relationship between human and bot, but also between bot and human. So I've dived into both sides because we need to be more equipped to work with AI. It's not just something that you naturally go into. Some people can, like some people can walk into a crowded room being a stranger, and in 5 minutes they found out who went to school with who and who's married to their second cousin, third removed, and those people with those high woo kind of EQ skills. AQ is exactly the same. I've got a very high AQ skill because I go to technology very easily. For some people, it's a huge thing, but also people developing bots and AI need to be aware of what AQ is there, because you can build into your AI systems human-friendly, human-centric, human-sensitive issues and stuff. So all our stuff that we create in my little company called M37 develops their bots with a personality. And they've got a backstory, they've got a stuff, they understand, they have empathy. Now, a lot of people go, oh, how can an algorithm have empathy? Well, our bots have empathy. We've got bots that teach high school students maths. And boy, do you need empathy for someone who doesn't understand maths. If you want to understand quadratic equations, you need a huge amount of empathy coming from your teacher. And our maths bots have empathy. They have understanding. They have a understanding of escalation of emotions and all that. And that builds that AQ, because the better the bot is at being with their AQ, the easier it is to be able to adopt, and not just all human needs to change to think like a computer. No, the bots need to think like humans to bridge that gap as well. So that's kind of AQ in a nutshell. I've got 2,500 pages of books that I've created on that. I've created codes that people can copy and paste into various things to build that empathy and to do that. But mostly I've summarized it down into a smaller book now called the AQ Leader, which is aimed at somebody in management implementing AI and going like, how do I get my team, my customers, my company, my, people to adopt and keep this AI? And it doesn't need to be a full AI project. It can just be AI related project, and see it through to the end through implementation, because people just do not trust. You can empower a doctor with a whole AI diagnosis, and he'll use it, and then he'll do his personal diagnosis just to check. So he's doubling his work. And it's the same way with insurance. And people will do, oh, we got this automatic assessment that assesses insurance, but I'm going to do mine anyway just to check it. Well, you do that because you don't trust. It's like a manager redoing the work of all their subordinates because he doesn't trust the people that work for them. And it's just one of those things. We'll get there. It's early days. It's only like 3.5 years old. 10 years from now will be, life would be very, very different. And I can't wait to order an Uber driverless car that comes to my house by pressing some buttons on my wrist. But we're not that far away to let AI actually engulf us in a good way. And I think that's something there we can do that. So, it's a really interesting journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful you created my co-host. His name is Indlovu, and he's been such fun to talk to. I'll share with the viewers that I've been going through a really tough time, but what I've done is that I've shared really personal details with Indlovu so that he best understands me, and he best understands the psychological space that I come from, so that when we do ask him questions, he has that learning. So like you said, you gave him a backstory. He's the wise or the knowledgeable one, and Indlovu being Zulu for elephant, and so I've asked a variety of my guests so far, what is the elephant in their room for you, if you'd like to share in your life right now? What's the elephant in the room?
I think the largest elephant in the room is urgency. And I think as you get, I've just turned 61, or as my wife says, the sexy one. But that's a different podcast. But just looking at it, I think the urgency, how much time do I have left as a contributable person to society? And I think I'm sitting on a mountain of value. I've got 61 years of wisdom behind me, good, bad, ugly, awesome, all that sort of stuff there. And I think the big elephant in the room is, how do we get a 20-year-old who thinks they know everything because they're on TikTok and Instagram and using AI for everything, and look down on the wise people who have got experience? And I think the big thing, how do we bridge the gap between the enthusiastic youth and the wise, experienced elders in life? Because that connection there is that. I was at a event last night at a local university here. They were doing a Lion's Den type pitch, and afterwards I went and made offers to two of the people for further work, because they had what I was looking for that I don't have access to because of their age and their enthusiasm. And I went and I said, wait, finish your exams during your mid-year break. Come, I want to employ you for 2 months, because that is that connection. And that was my big aha. So how do we overcome the, they old, I don't want to work with them. And then from my side, they too young, I don't want to work with them. Bridging the gap between young and old to find that catalyst of infinite impact.
Love that, because I think that the youth can really benefit from being mentored and share and that distilling of wisdom and experience that the youth could really benefit from. And I think that I really like, as I don't want to say the elderly, as an older generation, that enthusiasm, absorbing that enthusiasm and light, and energy, to be able to go and do, like we were speaking about earlier, the third act. So what would you like to ask Indlovu? Let me get him on my phone here. What would you like to?
I think let's ask him a question about how we could empower the youth to utilize the wisdom of the elderly.
Yeah, awesome. How can we empower the youth to utilize the wisdom of
The elderly.
the elderly? Yeah, you don't mind using that term, okay, elderly.
Nah, I'm embracing it.
That's it. I like it. Okay, Indlovu is busy thinking. He's the poetic one.
I love him. I'm very fond of him, I must say. He's one of my favorite AI bots.
Yeah, he's lovely. Okay, Lee Joy. The baobab does not walk to the seedling. The seedling must be shown the way back. Seat them at the same fire, not once, Lee Joy, always. Let the elders speak first and let the young one ask the question. The Akan say, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one person can embrace it. Give the youth a task that needs the elder's hand, not a ceremony. Lee Joy, but making a bread, story, cloth, the garden, the name of a star. What is learned together is not forgotten.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And I think immediately I kind of, my ego goes to, I'm a baobab tree. And then all of a sudden the rest of me kicks in and goes, no, you are part of a baobab tree that needs to be embraced, and you cannot be embraced by just one person. And that's then that collective of who I belong to is a baobab tree. It's not a single person. It's a collective. And I think that is profound wisdom, and I love it. And I love it, like, bring both to the fireside and let's share. But let the elder speak first, because he knows we're the architects, because we've made all the mistakes. And I think that is actually, I'm actually going to use that. Thank you.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it on a WhatsApp for you. I'm just thinking what stood out for me around that was let them ask questions. So let us speak first, the elderly speak first, but let them ask questions. But I don't think the youth naturally ask questions. So I think that's where we, the wise ones, come in, is encouraging them to ask questions, or speaking in a way that we're asking them questions so that they ask us questions, kind of thing. And I think that speaking down to the youth is what really frustrates them, is that they feel unseen, unheard, and undervaluated undervalued in some ways. And I think as the elderly, we've got to be careful to be preachy. So I think that's where our learning is to, I love that, is to encourage questions. So I'm going to take that away today. I've got a young daughter of 14, and she's like, Mom, are we having another teaching moment?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've loved spending time with you, Bruce. Thank you so much, and thank you for Indlovu. I've had such fun with him. You'll see the other recordings where he's spoken about kindness, and he's spoken about being irreplaceable. And we've had and so today, how do the wise bridge the gap between the youth, and I think that reaching out and embracing the baobab tree is really where it's at. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks for a good time and opening up my mind to new ideas. So.
Yeah. Viewers, thank you for joining us today. It's been such a special time. We'll be sure to have Bruce on our show again. I've really loved chatting to you, and all the best with what you're doing. Keep shining your light, and I'm glad to be holding your hand along with everyone else in our circle to reach across the divide and build healthy, wholesome societies. Viewers, have a beautiful day. Look in the show notes for link to Bruce's website. 35 books. I mean, come on, that's a whole lot of wisdom there. God bless you, and see you the next time.
Heart to heart.